right track. No time to lose, no looking back. It's time. Ooh, I said it's time. 2, 3, 4. Lord, Lord, what you gonna do if that passes you by? You get left alone, you wonder why. Well, the time is now, no hesitating. You got the green light. Who are you waiting? It's time. I said it's time. Talk to me, boys. Talking, if you can't hit your ride, you better start walking. It's time. He knows it's time. It's time. I said it's time. I mean it's time. Whip it. Yeah.
Time for the second half of the Michael J. Steele for Senate show. We're going to do 4 hours tonight. We got our special guests, Michael Key and Shannon Lynn on the show tonight, our good friends, and Pook is actually on the text board now. He might be coming in, having an interesting topic about immigration, the economy, agriculture, jobs, all kinds of good stuff. So we decided to continue on and keep the program going. This is the Michael J. Steele for Senate show. I'm running for Senate in North Dakota. To find out more about me and the program, go to www.michael-j-steele-for-senate.com, or you can go to Act Blue and donate. And just type in my name, Michael Steele. I'm the guy from North Dakota running for United States Senate. So we're having a good discussion. Let's start out the show with Shannon. What's on your mind, Shannon?
Yes, sir. I'm here. Gosh, you kind of caught me by surprise there. I would love to see you at my new show. I don't mean to change the subject, but you are always invited. It's my new conspiracy show on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock.
I would love to be there. And
great asset.
Send me a link.
Huh?
Send me a link. I'd love to go there. You got a pen and paper. Write my number down and call me, or send me a text. Let me know exactly when, because I don't want to miss it. Send me the link so I don't screw up. Can I give you a pen and paper?
Okay.
You got a pen and paper? I'll give you my office number here, and you can call me anytime you like.
Okay.
701-404-3044.
404-3044.
Yes, 701.
704.
Nope.
No, 404.
Right. 30.
701-404-3044.
Correct. Yeah, you got it. And then just don't call me late for dinner.
I'm going to call you, and I'm going to shock you.
All right. Yeah, just don't call me late for dinner. So I'd like to go on your show. That'd be great. Sure. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Let Michael take it. Start it off, Michael.
Well, Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
What I can't remember where we ended at.
Well, actually, I had the last word, and the last word we were talking about lawyers making too much money, and then doctors, and I said I hate doctors, and the show ended.
Right, exactly.
That's right. Okay, I know what I was going to say. So I don't know why I didn't bring this up. In my show earlier, I cited the numbers on this, and let me pull this study back up here. Let's see if I can find it. This is from the Texas Attorney General. Okay, so a government site that put together the cost of illegal immigration each year for just the state of Texas, and this was written March 31st, 2021. It cost Texas alone $850 million to taxpayers, $850 million. Here's how it's split up. It says Texans pay between $579 million and $717 million each year for public hospital districts to provide uncompensated care for illegal aliens. Texans paid $152 million to house illegal criminal aliens for just 1 year. Texans paid between $62 million and $90 million to include illegal aliens in the state of emergency Medicaid program. They also paid $1 million for the family violence program. They also paid between $30 and $38 million per year on perinatal coverage for illegal aliens through the children's health insurance program, and then they also paid $31 to $63 million to educate unaccompanied alien children each year. One state it costs $850 million. They also have another study here that says that 26% of incarcerated individuals in the United States are illegal aliens, which means that's also costing the taxpayers money, and they broke the law. Then you have another study here shows that the cost of illegal immigrants and current undocumented immigrants living in the United States is around after deducting the $19 billion that they pay and contribute to the economy in the form of maybe sales taxes, whatever, so that they have a $19 billion contribution, they still cost the United States around $116 billion of a burden to taxpayers in the United States as a whole every year. And 2/3 of that is absorbed directly almost by state and local governments and state and local taxpayers. So as much as you want to say these people are contributing to the economy, and it may seem so, there still is a substantial cost to it. And if you want to argue, that, okay, well, let's give them all citizenship. But then what about the people that did it right, like the guy I said, Chavez, at my office, who had to pay and go through that process? Or when do you stop it? When do you stop people from just coming in at will? Because we can't just keep that up. Here's the other thing. There's a gap. Right now, you said, okay, they sent the lawyers down to process the illegal immigrants. Maybe they did. There is a big gap of time but between the time they come across the border and the time they get processed and verified and background checked, right? Anyone could come over. We could have another Saddam or Osama bin Laden-like person that comes over in that amount of time and causes any kind of destruction. And there's plenty of cases. And as much as people want to deny this, there are plenty of cases. And honestly, in my opinion, one too many that could have been prevented. Okay? When you have an illegal comes over here and kills someone, gets in a car wreck, goes and rapes someone. And yeah, that happens with citizens as well. But you could prevent the illegal from coming over here. And so you could still cut it down. There's a whole negative aspect of illegal immigration. We're the only country in the world that is thinking it's going to be okay to let these people in. In China and Mongolia, they actually have a shoot-on-sight order for people trying to cross the border. Australia, if you get caught in Australia, they ship you to a concentration camp on an island before they give you a one-way ticket out of there. And if you get caught again, you go to prison for several years. Here, you get caught 4 or 5 times, they just send you back right across the border.
Well, you know what that's about. I mean, the start of that is to one world government, no closed borders. That's what that's about.
Well, what about
They
the
want votes, Mike.
what about the 19 hijackers that everybody knew were in the country? We had 5 intelligence countries calling us: England, Egypt, France, Germany, Italy called us, said you got 19 hijackers in your country right now, and they're going to do something, and they've got wiretaps and everything. They went to the CIA, FBI. We had an agent, a lady up in FBI agent said they got a Moussaoui guy trying to land planes in Minneapolis, right up where I live by North Dakota here. They don't want to know how to land them, and nobody did nothing about them. They knew they were here. They were tracking them. They had people here financing them. All these other Saudis here giving them money, getting them a place to live. Nobody did nothing. The government knew they were here. And your theory is like, why aren't we letting them here and all that? Well, everybody knew these people were here. They were terrorists, and nobody did nothing. What's your theory on that, Michael Key?
They should have. Here's the thing. My ideals may align with a party, but I have no loyalty. I may be a registered Republican, but I have no loyalty to the Republican Party. If they did something wrong, lock them up. Bush is a piece of crap. Bush and Cheney broke the law. They should be in jail for a long time, or if not forever, for things they did.
They're lying about weapons of mass destruction?
Yeah, they started.
Yes.
They caused Bush and Dick Cheney have caused substantial problems for us. Bush's father, Bush 1's the same thing. I don't have any loyalties to a party. I'm not running for a Democratic primary or a Republican primary or anything like that, right? It just so happens that my values may align more on the Republican side and as a conservative, but I could care less. And I regularly state this. What I think is wrong is wrong is wrong. It doesn't matter who you are. So, I do throw, some shots maybe at the Democrats and stuff, and I honestly probably shouldn't do that. But I still just try to call it like I see it. Because, and it goes back to the voting bill. I write articles about this, and I do a lot of research. The voting bill is set up to nationalize the election. It's also set up to where you can have these illegals or undocumented, whatever you want to call them, coming in, and you can make changes to the voting laws here in the United States that the Democrats can stay in power forever. That's literally what it's going to do. They're going to nationalize and turn it into a national populist vote instead of and there's even I have the bill printed out here. That's
what the filibuster was. It can help any party. The filibuster, whoever's in power, it can help.
Yeah, and they want to eliminate that just so they can pass.
Yeah, and if the shoe was on the other foot, the other party would want to eliminate it. It serves whoever's in power. It serves the filibuster.
Exactly, that's wrong.
Yeah, it serves whoever. It's a political tool, and it serves whatever party's in power. That's what it's there for.
But right here, it's HJ Res 14. I have it printed out. You can find this on the Gov Tracker. There is a government website. I have the exact writing in my hand. A proposed legislation from a Democratic representative, and it's sponsored by over 100 reps. A resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the United States to abolish the Electoral College. And you being from North Dakota, that should just piss you off, because that would be the worst thing that happened in North Dakota ever, because you would lose all representation in Congress. The state of North Dakota and the people of North Dakota and states like North Dakota we have three
electoral votes here right now. We have 3.
It doesn't matter that those add up.
And a lot of people think we're overrepresented right now. Every dollar we send to Congress, we get $3 back in government corporate spending in North Dakota. Every dollar we put in, we get $3 back from the government here. So we're a big Republican corporate welfare state, North Dakota, right now. If you look at all the numbers,
and that's fine.
Right, we get a lot.
And even if you went
back.
to a Democratic state,
pardon?
Even if you went to a Democratic state, right? Look, here's the thing. I am of the opinion that there should never be either party that controls the entire, 100% House is Democrat, 100% Senate is Democrat, and the executive branch. It should never ever be like that. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it like that, and it starts with the voting bill. And yeah, North Dakota's Republican right now, but what if you win, Michael? What if you win your election, now and someone else wins, now you're represented as a Democratic state? you still have representation. I've never heard someone whine about too much representation, but we did have wars. In fact, our Revolutionary War started because of no representation at all.
Well,
and if you analyze the election,
our state legislature has 22 Democrats and 141 Republicans, if that tells you anything. So we're outgunned in the state, and our federal's all Republican right now. Both our Senate and our U.S. House are Republicans. So basically, we're called a triumvirate. They got everything right now. The triumvirate in North Dakota is Republican right now. They got the state House, state Senate, and the federal level. They got a triumvirate right now.
Because your citizen demographic in North Dakota, it mirrors that.
Yeah.
It's look.
400,000 people decide the fate of my state. That's who decides.
And how many are Republican in North Dakota, Michael?
250,000 right now.
So a majority is Republican in the state.
Right now, about 250, out of registered voters. Well, we don't really have we're open voting. You only have to be a citizen 30 days to vote here, actually. To vote, we're open vote, but we do have a primary, and we get a lot of our data from the primary. So, and we'll have a primary June 14th.
But to say that, well, we're primarily Republican and we're underrepresented democratically, that is a product of the voting of the citizens of that state. Okay? But on a federal level, the reason we have the Electoral College is to give states like North Dakota and Iowa and Tennessee, and especially the states that have different economies.
It was supposed to be for minority states and that, but gerrymandering, a thing called gerrymandering is what screwed that all up. And that's still a problem today. If you look up Gerry gerrymandering is what we've got going on in the country to this day. And that's why it's being kicked back and forth from the states doing the redistricting or the courts doing it. A lot of the courts now, 19 states now, the courts are taking over now because there's so much infighting going on between the states now on this redistricting. They're actually making the courts do it. Some states are getting outside boards to do it, outside entities to come in because they can't even agree amongst themselves how to do it. It's just a mess right now. And every 10 years after we have the census, we got to deal with this debacle right now. And hopefully one day we get it right, and maybe the court should decide. But the courts are biased too. Everybody knows it. Everybody's got their bias. If we could get people that are non-judgmental, non-biased, have no party affiliation to do some of this work, would be fine. But it's just that's what's messing this all up. But the gerrymandering, even in North Dakota right now, the Native Americans are upset because it's actually dividing some of the people here that been in the tribes. Or some of the tribes are getting mixed up, and some of the districts from the candidates are getting. But some of the districts it's opening up en routes for new blood to come in to actually have a district where they can run now, where they couldn't before. But some people are saying it's splitting the tickets. It's gerrymandering 100% no matter where you look at it. It's who writes the damn districts are the ones that you got to watch. But you should have an outside board coming in, and every one of these things should be checked by different federal boards and expert map drawers, and federal election committee people should come in and check and quantify every district but they don't. They're just that. It's very simple. People need to check it, have 3 or 4 checks to get these things certified, and they're not doing it. And that's where you got the gerrymandering. But 10 years from now, they're going to show you how the people got screwed in this district in our college textbooks or whatever and say, oh, look at this. Now we figured how they cheated here. They gerrymandered this, and 200,000 people here didn't get the vote, or they voted wrong, and this candidate didn't get on the ballot. I mean, it's all gerrymandered, and that's
what I don't understand is if they can, why do we even have the popular vote, which that's the way it should be, if the Electoral College can just come in and override that. I think that would
be the popular vote. Right. You want is the popular vote.
I said it should be.
Right. The Electoral College doesn't have to go with the popular vote either. which they don't.
It shouldn't go with the popular vote.
They don't have
Shane,
to.
here's why you,
Yeah.
here's
I know.
why you don't want the popular vote. You do not
I mean,
ever
because
want
it could be so rigged. I mean, and
Right.
so
It's secretive.
you know,
The Electoral College, you don't know who they are. Well, once in a while, they'll release a few names, though, and tell you who they are. They've leaked it out in the press. You'll know who the Electoral College are. We're not supposed to know who they are.
It doesn't matter. You don't want a popular vote on the national level. Absolutely
Well, some people
not.
say that the American people aren't smart enough, and I think they are. I think the American people are smart enough to decide their own fate. And some people say no.
It has nothing to do with
well,
the
Electoral College are college professors, former politicians. Hillary Clinton was actually, it got leaked out that she got on the board of the Electoral College last time. She was actually one of the electors.
but then it can be so corrupted so easily.
You are running for Congress and you're scaring me that you want a popular vote, especially in North Dakota.
Well, why not? Why not? The Electoral.
Because listen, guys.
Well, the
Let me explain
Electoral
this.
College, a lot of people have been wanting to get rid of it for years, so I'm not the only one.
Yeah, and that's crazy. That's
Well,
treasonous almost.
But you got 320 million people, Michael Key, 320 million people, and you put the fate of their hands in just a few hundred people on the Electoral College. You know,
they're not putting it in the view of 100 people. 100 people are representing the 320 million people.
Yeah, but they don't have to go with the people, the Electoral College.
And when they don't, it's a major issue.
And there's been times where they haven't gone with the people, and they've actually.
How many times?
Well, it's happened quite a few. 8 times, 1 time, 8, 9, 10 times, maybe more.
Okay, 8, 9, 10 times in 200 years.
Maybe more. I've read it where it's happened more frequently than we've thought it's happened.
It happens, but it's very, very, very rare. And here's why you don't want a national popular vote. Why it would be the worst thing ever. It doesn't matter how smart Americans are and the fact that they can just – here's the thing. The popular vote in each state is what matters. Okay? And then whoever wins that popular vote in the state, the electorates for that state are going to go cast a ballot in representation of the popular vote in that state. All right? Each state has a weighted representation in Congress, okay? That means North Dakota gets 3 votes, and if you win North Dakota, you get all 3 votes. If you go to a national popular vote, you would have L.A., New York, Philadelphia, Miami, Dallas, Houston, San Francisco, your 13 to 15 major cities primarily lying on the coast of the United States that always decides the election of the President of the United States, okay? The majority of these large states, if not all of those cities, are all Democrat cities, Shannon. Democrats always outweigh.
Okay. I would like to hear, Luke has raised his hand, and so I'd like to hear what Luke has to say, please.
All right, I'm sorry. I just said, let me put my hand up real quick. Michael, I have a quick question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Steele.
Oh.
So you're telling me that on average, or it's estimated that there's 250 total population of 400,000, 250,000 is, which is probably what, 60% is Republican in your state, right?
Yep.
Okay. And can you tell me why North Dakota still has the corporate farming laws that restrict companies and LLCs or small business to own land or do farming in your state?
Because 99% of our land is privately owned here. It's privately owned, 99% of it. And I was going to address this with my plan I got for our GDP on Thursday's show.
But
we're going to take us from 50th place. We're in 50th place for GDP in North Dakota. I'm going to take us to first place, and I got a plan. And you're addressing something that was secret that I'm going to kind of bring up on the show Thursday. And that's part of it.
But you guys produce 320 million bushels of wheat every year is what they're estimating.
Well, we got wheat, grain, sunflowers. We do more than anybody, but our GDP state output in 20 years under John Hoeven, our governor, he was our governor and our senator. We've been ranked 50th for GDP output of the state. It's terrible, but it's we got a state-owned bank here. We've had state-owned mills, state-owned banks. We have the only state-owned bank in the country, if that tells you anything. And then 99% is privately held land trust here. land.
So I'm just confused at why the corporate farming laws are in place when farmers actually need to establish LLCs for obvious reasons. Wouldn't that constitute a question of that law? Does that make sense? I mean,
well,
we have to wonder why you're not allowed to have an LLC
the whole
to
state,
own that property.
this whole state is a conflict of interest. That tells you the whole state.
I'm just
That's
curious
what I want to
because we're all
change.
talking about.
Yeah, the whole state is a conflict of interest here. If that tells you anything, that's why I want to change it. They call it the good old boy network.
Because that is the business.
But do you think that the climate, or it's motivated by climate change and all that kind of stuff? Is that why, or is it just because of that good old boy club? I'm just
good
curious.
Old boy club, been here forever, and just kind of trying to shut people out from coming in. You know, it's a machine.
Okay.
It's a machine here that's been this way, and the people that are in power don't want to give up power, and we're changing that. We're fighting it, and it's going to change, and I'm going to do it, and we're going to do it soon.
I have a really good friend that is actually married to a guy that does farmers somewhere up in a lake, kind of northeast somewhere. I'd have to go back and look it up, but I know I don't even know how much land he's got up there, but I do know that he owns probably anywhere from 14 to 18 combine units.
Yeah, it's big farming, a lot of farming up here. That's why if I got to win the farm vote to win this election, and I think what they're going to hear next Thursday, they're going to be interested, the farmers, you know, because I support the farmers big time. You know,
well, what's interesting to me is we always say, you know, let's grow it in America, let's produce it in America, but yet states like yours that are predominantly Republican states, or what we're going to call red states if we want to divide it that quick, also restricts ownership of LLC.
Right.
It's not some corporate entity, but the LLC alone puts people at a disadvantage when they're trying to be part of that growth.
Yep.
It baffles me. I don't get it.
We need more organic farmers here, and we're going to talk about that too on Thursday on the show.
Okay. I'll check your show out.
Yeah, Thursday's going to be a good one. I was just
curious. Thank you.
And Michael Key, one thing too, you're talking about the Electoral College. I'm talking about the Al Gore v. Bush. 9 people, the Supreme Court, who are not even elected body of people. 9 people decided the fate of 320 million Americans. You're talking about how bad the Electoral College, how great they are. I'm talking about how bad our Supreme Court is. You got a body of 9 that we don't even elect that are telling 320 million people who the president's going to be, and you love the Electoral College. Well, I don't like what the Supreme Court did, and they're doing too many decisions lately. And people are getting lazy. Our judicial system's not doing its job. Our legislatures aren't legislating. Lobbyists right now are writing legislation, and they're just giving our senators and congressmen checks, and the lobbyist lawyers are writing the legislation for them. It's just ridiculous. Supreme Courts are deciding presidents. Supreme Courts are getting involved in everything when it's stuff that these issues, when I studied law in college, were exhausted 200, 100 years ago. We've been talking about the same stuff for 300 years in this country. There's laws on the books about immigration. There's laws on the books about everything we're discussing. They got to use these laws, and these courts got to quit kicking it over to the Supreme Court and quit telling them, you know, to do it, and let the 9 of them up there control our lives. We need majority rule, statutory law. We need legislatures to legislate and judges to start doing their job. Everybody's passing the buck. They're all passing the buck. Eric Green, how you doing? Welcome to the show, Eric.
Oh, good. I'm with you on that, Michael.
Thank you.
Another thing is Trump lied. He kind of lied to us. He told us that our vote would count. I didn't see our vote counting. They wanted whoever was president. They wanted him for president. Our vote didn't count.
Well, I'm glad Pitt stood up to him today.
They're making a big old fight about that too, about going to the polls.
Well, Vice President Pence stood up to him today. Thank God. I'm glad he did. They were going to hang Pence at the damn January 6th deal. They even built a noose and everything.
Pence.
I'd vote for Pence. They even hung a noose.
Yeah, I like him.
They hung a noose on that guy. They were going to hang him. I seen that noose, and he told the truth today. I'm happy for him. He told the truth. I like him too.
So
The one
Michael,
thing he did say that concerned me was when we win in 24. Who is we?
Right. Well, I don't think it's Bush. I don't think Bush. I don't think it'll be Trump. I don't know. It could be, but I don't think.
Well, Hillary's running too, so.
What?
Rod Brown.
I saw Trump.
Michael, let
Even
me
though I
ask,
don't like him, I saw Trump.
let me ask you a question though, Michael. So let's go back to the electoral college thing though, because this is important. You just said you're in favor of a national popular. You want a majority rule, which it would turn into a democracy and take away our republic
No,
standing.
I want a direct democracy is what I want. I want a direct,
exactly. That's what I
direct
just,
democracy. Yeah, direct democracy.
That's what I just said. Okay, so let me ask you something. You would agree that the cities of L.A. with 23 million people, the city of New York with just slightly less than that, those are primarily Democratic cities, yes or no?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, based on the proportionality of the people there. Yeah, proportionality.
Okay, and not only are they Democratic cities, they are substantial Democratic cities. Now, I bring that up because here's my point. I would say the demographics of all major cities, maybe some exceptions, but I doubt it, are substantial Democratic cities. Even in states like Tennessee, Nashville is a Democratic city. Or look at Atlanta or Miami, Orlando. They're all Democratic cities. That's where the majority of populations are. Does an actor or a producer in L.A. know how to farm, Michael? Could they come to North Dakota and start telling your farmers what to do and how to run their economy in North Dakota?
Sure. What? Yeah, why not? Heck yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, they could.
What do you mean why not?
They could come here. Hell
No,
yeah.
No.
Why couldn't
Could
they?
they come
Why couldn't they?
right now? Do those people in L.A. know what is best for the North Dakota economy?
Well, I'll tell you what, our GDP's at 50th percent. I'd love to hear what they got to say. They might have some good ideas.
Okay.
I'd be open to hearing what
What's
they
your
got to say.
population?
They might be able to help our economy. Our population is a little under 800,000, but we've had our biggest growth spurt in 100 years, so we're almost 800,000.
That's great. Where are you ranked as far as population?
Well, we're probably down there with Wyoming is at like 400 cities. We're probably at the lowest, one of the least.
So you're probably 50 out of 50, huh?
Well,
You would imagine?
no, about 46 maybe, 47th, I'm guessing. I don't know. Where Wyoming's way down there. They got 450,000 in Wyoming. We're down there, yeah. But I know we're 50th in GDP output for the state. We're the worst, so I'd like to hear what they got to say. If they get our GDP out, I'll listen to them.
Okay, so what would they do? Because your primary industry is farming.
Right.
That's what you guys have to.
Yeah.
You have natural gas.
Well, we got farming here, military farming, and colleges. We got a lot of colleges. We got some solar
power.
Solar's good. Yeah, we got Minnesota's really big on solar. We do have solar, and we got windmill farms here now. Windmill farms.
So you're telling me because you still need the farming because we still need food.
Because we got wind.
That's still your
we got a lot of wind in North Dakota. We're probably windier than Chicago, and they call Chicago the windy city. Come and live in North Dakota for about a month. You want to feel some wind.
I'm not denying that. What I'm asking you,
they should be utilizing that wind.
I'm asking you is you still have to have the farming. That's still going to be your primary economy.
Yeah, we're big farmers, big ag. We're big.
Someone in LA or on Wall Street knows more about that farming industry and what that farmer needs. All right, than the farmer himself. You're telling me that someone can come from Wall Street and tell that guy what to do. I can tell you now.
You didn't say Washington. You didn't say. You said coming from the South. You said a southern state.
I said coming from the city. I said coming from the city.
Well, from Los Angeles actors.
Not from Washington. Not from Washington. You said Washington. Yeah, not Washington.
I said from L.A. or New York.
Well, they got farmers in L.A. They grow wine, grapes. I've been to L.A. They got grape vineyards.
Sure.
They got wine.
And they grow wheat.
They grow a lot of stuff in L.A. and they got a lot of crops in New York, upstate New York. They grow a lot of crops there. Yeah,
I'm not
they got
talking
a lot of
about the
farming there.
There's crops in every state.
Right. Right.
I'm talking about the guys in the city, and the reason why it's important to distinguish between the two is because with a national popular vote, the people in the city, because of how our makeup is in the United States, will determine who is president 100% of the time. And you would take away all representation, okay, any kind of representation that people in your state has. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. You still need to look at the majority of your state is farming and some other industries that the people in LA and New York have no idea what they are talking about.
What? California, they farm a
Yeah,
lot.
but they don't.
California, we got.
California does.
You know.
Hold on.
You know how many?
Hold on.
I would like to step in and talk about a Brazilian contest.
Yeah.
Sorry for my voice and my poor English, but we have a political model that difference from the electoral college. So we have a kind of dictatorship because 51% of the country rules the other 49% of the country. It's extremely unfair. It's extremely grotesque because it's a democracy. It's like the ancient Greeks. It's like the Athens. It's a high-profile class showing what the poor people should do, and you have the biggest cities commanding that kind of thing. So what happens with Deep America? What happens with the population of Nebraska? What happens with the people, the population of Mississippi, Missouri? So
they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. Everybody's going to be fine here because eventually this shit is going to come to a point where it's going to be enough. And not that I want to see any type of conflict, but I feel like there's more people who have a little bit of common sense behind their views and can see, especially if they lean one way and then they see how shit's getting. You know what I mean? They're going to eventually move to a side where the numbers will be. It won't be a contest if it comes to something. You know what I mean? I feel like there's just more common sense than the media portrays and that gets put on here. You know what I mean? I feel like eventually people aren't going to put up with this shit, if it keeps progressing the way it has been anyway. That's how I feel about it. But
and then going back to what Shannon said, she said the Electoral College is too easily corrupted. The difference, though, Shannon, is you're talking about corruption, right? Where maybe you can look at that and find out where that corruption is. But when you go to a popular vote, okay, and Michael, it has nothing to do with the people in the countryside in California. It has to do where the masses of the populations are. The majority of the United States lives in the cities on the coast, and the majority of them are Democrat. But the reason we don't have a popular vote is because those people in the cities have
have a popular vote.
Exactly. The people in the cities have a different knowledge, all right, and a different skill, all right, and a different economy than the people.
And a different life.
Exactly. And so to have a national popular vote would be to say that they have complete say in everything.
It's not representation. It's not representation at all.
I know why you have an electoral college. I said it on the show. If you guys have been listening on the last show and this show, it's to make sure that the minority's voice is being heard through proportionality. I said that already. All I said was I said one thing. The electoral college doesn't have to go with what the people say, which is bullshit. And they should, and then I said the court of 9 who are not elected officials decided what 320 million people are fate, and they shouldn't have got involved in the Al Gore Bush thing, or we'd have had a different president. And the court is getting involved in too many things right now, which they shouldn't be doing. The Supreme Court, and they should let justice do its job in America. And America should let the courts decide, and the legislatures had better start legislating, and the judges and legislatures better start doing their job, and they're not. They're passing the buck.
Supported a direct democracy.
Well, so honestly, listen, real quick,
We need a
guys.
direct democracy.
So my thing is, wasn't our government originally put in place to represent from the town level?
Work.
Then get.
It
Well, no,
really
listen.
doesn't
Yeah,
work.
it would. But listen, it would. Listen, if it was back to the way that it was written originally, it works fine. There's no reason to add the 9,000 laws that we've added, last year. There's no reason to do that. If you go back to the basics of how it's the most beautiful document that was ever fucking written, in my opinion. So if you go back to that and just go by the common sense of it and and operate from there, that's why the Convention of States needs to happen. They need to bring it together. They need to.
We're talking.
It has to happen.
They're going to have it. They're going to have it.
It has to happen.
We're 9, I think, away from it, and they're going to have it. We're going to wake up one day
And
with
that's
a new
easy.
constitution, and it's going to happen one day.
Oh my gosh. No, we shouldn't. We don't need a new
That's not what it does. It resets it back to
We're
the
having a
original.
constitutional convention again, 9 states, like they did in the founding. They're going to go to Philadelphia. We're going to have a constitutional convention. They're going to have a constitutional convention. So like they did in Philadelphia is what I'm talking about. 9 states join. We have a constitutional convention like they did when they wrote the Constitution, and that's what could happen again.
Right, but that doesn't get rid of the Constitution, though. It doesn't make our Constitution null. What it does is resets all of the laws that have been written since. It resets everything back to the original Constitution, and then the states get together for the reason of making the laws that are necessary from that point.
You guys have the best constitution of the world.
What, Marcos? Go ahead, Marcos.
Here in Brazil, we have a constitution that is verbal-logic. It's delegation constitute, so the state is responsible of our happiness, of our living, to employ us, to assist us, and we don't have liberties. Like just I said before, I can't go to the city hall. So the liberty is the basis of America. So when you have a constitution like the founding fathers conceived, you can simply define America like a republic. It's truly a republic. Here in Brazil, we have a democracy, and we have to understand the difference, because this system doesn't coexist.
Yeah, and Michael J. Steele, just to introduce you, Marcos is a columnist and he works in the media in Brazil. He's probably more knowledgeable than all of us in matters of our own government and their government.
Well,
he will even tell
we're
you.
a democratic republic is what America is. Democratic.
We're actually a constitutional republic, and that's what it's even written.
Well, democratic. We're a democratic republic. And a republic is by indirect representation. Okay, we hire people. The farmers in this country, they didn't want to go.
It's institutions. Republic is institutions.
Indirect representation. We have an indirect form of
Too
government.
much bureaucracy.
We have an indirect representative government. Republic means an indirect. The farmers all didn't want to go to Washington. They chose one person to represent them. We have a representative form of government, which is a republic. I like a direct democracy where the people have a vested interest in our decisions of government, where everybody has a stake in it, where we all have a vested interest.
Guess what, Michael? You just took every right that North Dakotans have any kind of representation for away. You just screwed your own state.
Our state isn't working. We're ranked 50th in GDP. I like the people that have a voice, just like this show. I'm giving you a voice on my show. I'm for the First Amendment. Marcos is a media guy, and he said he can't even go to City Hall. I don't know what kind of democracy he has there. I could go to my City Hall right now, and I could talk and complain. I could go to my city commission. I can do all kinds. I got all kinds of freedom here. Our country's based on freedom. That's what liberty means, freedom. So I'm a liberal that loves freedom. Our country's based on freedom, the Liberty Bell. You know, the land of the free and the home of the brave. The land of the free, home of the brave. And that's what it's all about.
You don't want to go to a democracy like Brazil then, because you just said you don't want to go. You don't want to do that. So you just contradicted yourself.
No, I didn't. I told you we're based on freedom, but I like a direct democracy. In Italy, if you're in Italy, if you don't vote, you pay a $15,000 fine. This country, you don't get fined if you don't vote. That's the kind of freedom you have in this country.
Do you know the Leviathan, the Thomas Robes wrote, saying about the man, it's his own predator. It's like that. You don't believe in people. You believe in laws, in institutions. That's the limit of ganancia, corruption.
I believe in individual rights over corporate rights. Okay, power to the people. I believe in people over profits. I don't believe in profits over people. Power to the people. Individual rights.
Yeah, but free markets are essential to our system. It has to be.
We have a mixed market economy. We have a public and private sector. We don't have what you say. We have a public and private sector. We have two sectors.
Only because of bureaucracy, though, sir. You know what I mean? Like it's literally only has become that. If it was a true free market society, like it's supposed to be, and people were able to,
it's not a free market.
Yeah, but it should be, though. It's become because of laws that were put into place by.
If you have capitalism, you're free. If you have capitalism, you have freedom. If you don't, you don't have freedom. Capitalism buys freedom, but we have a public-private sector, and it's a mixed market economy. You either serve the private sector or the public, but right now the private sector is taking up the public sector, and I don't like it. We need to have a public sector. Because the private sector doesn't belong in the private sector. The private sector is the private sector, and the public sector is coming in and sucking up the private sector sucking up the public sector, and it shouldn't be here. Now get away from our, why are we privatizing? Republicans came in under Reagan and Bush, and they want to privatize every frickin' thing, and they say that private corporations can do better than the government. Bullshit. The government can do a better job.
Why?
No, they can't. No, they can't. Bullshit. That's why you have so much corruption. You have mob rule under privatization. When you have privatized, when you have the private companies coming in, that's why you have corruption.
What do you mean mob rule? You have rule.
Then you have corruption. Then you have corruption. When you have the companies all privatized, you have fascism and you have corruption. That's why we have corruption right now. Everything, the Republicans privatized everything. And that's why you have corruption, because there's no government oversight. You don't need government no more. That's why we're coming back. That's why I'm running.
Michael,
fuck left, fuck right, fuck Republican, fuck Democrat. We need to start thinking in terms of Americans, guys.
To talk about a Cuban electoral system. How the state finances the candidates. So the taxpayers finances all the campaigns. So it's what you are saying, because here in Brazil, for an example, we have to pay for TV electoral propaganda. Here in Brazil, we have to pay, the taxpayers pay for literally for the parties to announce their candidates. So it's that what you're saying?
Who are you talking to? Me? Michael-J-Steele?
He's saying, okay, let me clarify because I talked to him quite a bit. What he's saying is in Brazil, you have fact checkers, you have propaganda that's put on the media, and the campaigns are all funded by the government. It's a huge conflict of interest. In fact, it's a direct violation of what would be our First Amendment rights. He's asking if that's what you want, because you want the public sector to actually grow, because you're saying that the private sector is correct. But
no,
let's do this.
I said there's a dividing line, and I said the government itself is subcontracting now. And things government used to do now is letting private companies do the government's work, because the government's getting frickin' lazy, and the government used to do their job, and they're not. And now these private companies, that's why you got all this corruption. You got rid of the Glass-Steagall Act, and you got banks, you got corruption, you got Enron, you got all these corruption, you got Bernie Madoff. I could go down the list. It's because of privatization coming from Ronald Reagan. And it's going to the Bushes. It's coming to now. And you wonder why we're losing money, and we got money going to the Cayman Islands. They got rid of the Glass-Steagall Act. You got all this corruption. It's because of privatization. Nobody's watching anybody, and they're stealing. We don't need a government then. If we're going to privatize everything, why do we need government? We don't need government anymore. Then if everything's going privatized, get rid of the damn government. That's what I'm saying. If everything.
Let me ask you a question. I want to ask you questions and let you answer. That way it can clarify for everyone, okay? Because I think, like, let's do that. Instead of going back and forth, I just want to ask you some questions.
Well, then this is over your head. I think it's over your pay grade, buddy.
I don't think it's not even close. Let me ask you something. Okay, so you've established there's a dividing line between the public and private sector. Here's my stance on it before I start asking you questions. The government in the public sector is there to provide certain services. That is security services and some regulation of the private sector with businesses. That's, your Sherman antitrust laws and all of that. All that is fine. Okay? Basically the way I look at it is if you had a football game, the franchises that are playing are owned by the people, the private sector. The stadium is owned by the people, the private sector. The government's role is to be a referee and provide the security to the stadium and nothing more. Okay? But you're saying that corruption lies in the private sector, but it doesn't. And you brought up the mob.
Conflict of interest. There's conflicts of interest. It's called conflict of
There is in the
interest.
government, too.
Yeah.
You have the
well, you just said it. There you go. You just said it.
So
it's in the government, too.
You're
That's
wanting the
called
government to
fascism,
overspend.
buddy. What do you think we've been fighting against? Fascism. We're fighting against fascism, buddy. What do you think I've been doing my whole life? We're fighting fascism.
Who is corrupt then? Is it the private sector or the public sector? Who is it? Because you're saying it's the private sector. It's both. It lies in both.
Well,
but the
how
public
could you
sector
say it's
being
both?
corrupted.
How could you say it's both? I see it more.
What do you mean? Okay.
It's
because the two sides are played against each other constantly. Like it's just fucking bullshit.
The Pelosi's, all right, and I even wrote an article. The inside trade, they're extremely corrupt. Extremely corrupt. You even brought it up.
Wow.
The corporations lobby, right? They do. And they lobby to who? To the senators, the representatives, the people that are making the laws. All right? Here's the thing. A corporation that's the size of Google or Apple or something like that, they need the people in Congress to put in legislation that favors their business. But here's the bigger concern is that the politicians, their lives revolve around the support of those corporations because that's who funds them to freaking get them voted in and allow them to stay in office. The problem, and I think you agree with this, is we don't have term limits. We have people like Pelosi and them who have never worked in the private sector, and they've literally made a career of a public service. All right? And all they do, they go there and they implement policies and they say what we like to hear. They say what we like to do. They backtrack and they only do it just to get enough votes and to keep their ass in the Senate or the House of Representatives so they can collect their pension. They do not care one way or the other. The Build Back Better plan was a great example of this. It talked about how it's going to be a great tax cut for the lower and middle class and raise taxes on the rich. You know what it did? Well, the only tax break that came in the form of the Build Back Better plan, and Michael, I have almost read all 2,800 pages of it.
It hasn't been passed yet. You're acting like it was passed.
I know. They're trying to.
They haven't passed it. You're acting like it's been passed. It hasn't been passed yet.
It doesn't matter if it is. It's the fact that they intended to do something like this.
Well, I think it'll create jobs.
Just putting it forward is treason.
I think it'll put people to work, and it gets lead out of our pipes and.
People don't want to go to work right now. Why are you going to go to work when nobody's working as it is,
pregnant mothers won't drink lead-contaminated water anymore because it's going to fix lead pipes. And people are going to go back to work. You know, it's putting money into the economy instead of over in Afghanistan. We just stopped a war that was costing us $159 million
There's
a day.
nothing that is going to stop the current inflation.
Economy doesn't do that naturally.
Our economy is going to collapse. You guys know that, right? Like, I mean, you guys seem like pretty smart people. You can't look at the current situation that we have and not think this whole thing is not going to
$30 trillion, but I got the Mike-Steele plan will get us out of this. I can get us out of debt in a week, but I've already said it on this show. You'll have to listen to the reruns.
That's fine, but let me say, The only tax cut that Biden was talking about, it doesn't matter if they passed it or not, it's the fact that they put it forward and tried to. The only tax cut was the child tax credit that Biden expanded on in his American Rescue Plan. And it was the one that Trump had. Okay, all he did was he increased it to $3,500 a child, depending on the age. And he made it refundable. That means people that didn't pay a dime in taxes were able to receive the full tax credit. That turned the tax credit into a form of redistribution of wealth. That's the only tax cut. Now, they were not able to put that, to extend it. Okay, that means it expired in January, which means the only tax cut for the lower middle class was eliminated from the Build Back Better plan. However, when they said they were going to raise taxes on the rich, they actually increased the state and local tax deduction that Trump put a cap on, all right, which primarily, because the top 10 highest state and local tax states are all Democratic states, they were going to raise that from $10,000 to $80,000, an 800% increase. Okay, the only people that get the benefit of the doubt, and a substantial benefit of the doubt by that matter, is wealthy people. That is it. You know why? They did it in blue states, particularly, and they were giving a massive tax cut to the rich. Why? Why in the hell? In this, how does it even sound smart? When you depend on these wealthy people to
exactly look the Rusty Belt.
Well, here,
look the Rusty Belt.
Michael, you need contributions to run your campaign, right?
Now I'm going to give you the counter argument on that. Give me a minute to speak on this show here.
Go ahead.
Okay, the Build Back Better program, it stops large profitable corporations from paying zero in tax, and it taxes corporations that buy back stock rather than invest in the company, because Delta just got $18 billion from the government that was supposed to invest in the company by hiring people, new planes and all that. You know where the money went? It went to the stockholders. They took the money and got about $1 billion in profits, took the money and cashed out. Now Elizabeth Warren and the Democrats are saying, give us our $18 billion back because you didn't do what you said you were going to do with it. In 2019, the largest corporations in the United States only paid 8% in taxes, and many paid nothing at all. Biden believes that this fundamentally is unfair. So do I. The Build Back Better framework is going to impose a 15% minimum tax on corporate profits for large corporations with over $1 billion in profits.
It's all moot.
With over $1 billion in profits. Well, you know who's doing it now that it's all moot? The world banking corporations are going to do it themselves now. They think this is a good idea because their countries are getting shafted.
That's because this is a plan.
The World Monetary Bank is going to do it. Yeah, this means that if a large...
This is all planned, Michael.
Well, the World Bank is doing it now, and the corporate government is going to do it because they think it's a good deal because they're getting tired of getting shafted and losing money. So they're going with the 15% plan.
The entire economy is going to collapse, brother.
I agree.
Well, if we don't do it, they're doing it.
Everybody should prepare for it.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, I provided you numbers. Show me numbers. What would that do? How much more in taxes will they pay? Go on, tell me how much more, and because the taxes will go to the revenues of the bill. How much revenue will that bill come? I want to know this answer because I actually know. How much revenue will the Build Back Better bill come?
I would like to remember you guys the Laffer curve. Do you know the concept?
What's that?
The Laffer curve.
Yeah. I know the Laffer curve very well, very, very well. But and I'll get in that second. Pook actually mentioned that. But Michael, give me a number. How much revenue will the Build Back Better bill, if it was passed? I know it hadn't passed, but the fact that they even tried to implement it, let's talk about it. How much revenue is that going to bring in?
It'll be the framework. It'll have a surtax supposedly on it that'll income on millionaires and billionaires, the top 2% of Americans who would apply 5% rate above income of $10 million on them too, which would be an additional 3% above incomes at $25 million.
No, I want to know projected revenue. You can increase
there's 700 billionaires in the country, so tax them 8% of their whatever their wealth was that year, and you got a pretty good estimate. And then if you if you go with your millionaires that are making over 25%, a year, you just put that 2% on there.
It doesn't work like that.
And then you figure it out. Well, that's what the government's actuaries will figure that all out. But it's a hell of a lot more than zero. Hey, it's a lot more than zero. It's more than we got now. It's better than a
I've run a
sharp
study.
stick in the eye.
He's
Better
putting
than a
money
sharp
back in
stick in
your
the
pocket.
eye. Better than a sharp
Michael,
stick in the eye.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but
You're
you're
better for
wrong.
putting
Well,
money back in
you're
your
a
pocket.
financier. You're looking for your stockholders, the bottom line. I look out for the American
Nope.
people. I work for Main
I'm not.
Street,
I'm
not
looking
Wall
at the numbers
Street.
and the data.
You're looking for your people. You know what else this thing does? You know what it does? It stops rewarding corporations for shipping jobs and profits overseas. It makes it where they're not going to make no money, and they got to bring the jobs back, or it forces them to bring the jobs back to America because it makes them not.
But that's not the thing.
Well, that's what it
When
does.
you raise taxes, you're raising taxes to bring in more
No.
revenue, to potentially bring in more revenue.
No, for the
Yes,
government. Well,
that's
the
what that's
government
the whole
needs
thing.
more revenue. We're $30 trillion in debt. We're
I
going
get
broke.
that.
We need revenue, or we're going to go bankrupt.
I get that.
We need money.
What I'm saying
We
is
need
by
money.
increasing
Look,
taxes,
we're going to go
it doesn't
bankrupt
bring more
regardless,
revenue.
guys. It doesn't. We need to stop having this argument because it really, honestly, doesn't matter in the end. We are going to go broke. We have already gone broke. The amount of money that's being spent doesn't exist.
It's all on Biden.
It's a fucking made-up figure. It's over. Like they've tanked it. It's on purpose. They're trying to. It sounds like a conspiracy type thing, but literally this is for a one world government type thing to get people have to be in a state of chaos in order to accept something like that. Okay, to let go of their borders and the pride that they may have for their personal country and things like that. You know what I mean? Like in order to accept the idea of something like a one world government and one world economy is the only way to do it is to have people be in chaos, where the only answer is having that prayer there in the government to have the hand out to help you get out of the crisis that you're in. That's what this is.
Well, one thing I learned in all my studies, just spooking around there, you got to get rid of religion, or have a one world religion, because religion is what everybody's fought over. We'll never have a one world order if we still have religion. Remember that. You'll never have a one world order if you still have religion. How you gonna have a one world order when you still have religion? When you still have religion.
How does this country operate?
I'm talking. You want a one world order? We're only one country. There's 197 other countries out there. You're talking one out of 197. So give me an example. How are you going to get rid of religion in the Middle East and India, China? How are you going to get rid of all these other 24,000 religions we have and have a one world order? To have a one world order, you got to eliminate 24,000 religions and put it under one umbrella. Tell me how we're going to do that.
Okay, let me ask you this. If, per se, if you, as you say, one world religion, what religion would you think that would be?
Buddhism.
Or no religion at all. You'd either have no religion.
Or no religion at all.
No religion at all, or we all worship one God. I don't know, one religion or no religion.
But here's the thing. We can talk about all the future outcomes. Sorry, go ahead, Margaret.
So you are praying atheism.
Look, so here's the thing. We can talk about all the future outcomes we want. But those future outcomes are the product of people that don't understand how simple things work. And that just brings us back to the argument of the whole taxing. They don't take behavior into consideration. I've read the entire White House agenda, the economic agenda, everything. I do this every day. They don't take into consideration behavior. When you increase taxes, there's actually a complete negative correlation in tax revenue. So when you're giving me percentages saying, well, we're going to increase it 3% here and 8% here, that actually lowers tax revenue. You know why? Because they don't look at the fact that those corporations and those rich individuals are coming to me as the advisor and finding every little tax break and way to deduct the taxes or they're going to go take advantage of the $80,000
So you're cooking the codes? So you're cooking the books for them?
No, we're abiding by the laws.
Are you doing two sets of books for them then, Michael Key? Are you cooking the books?
No, because there's legal things that are well known that are available to everyone.
I'm a businessman. I do
of.
taxes too. I do my own taxes, by the way. I've been doing them for years. I own businesses, I know.
But the thing is, you can bring in as much revenue as you want. The Build Back Better bill, actually spends far more than it brings in. It actually adds to the deficit.
It's all paid for. It's all paid for.
It's not, because here's what Biden's running into. And you need to understand this so you can actually, tell them this if you win. All right. This is the problem Biden's running into. The only tax deduction or tax break for the lower middle class is that child tax credit. That's gone, which means they have to extend it. If they extend it, and they extend it where he wants to extend it, it's going to actually the bill's going to cost over $5 trillion. That means the only way he can even get that thing to zero.
That's in 10 years. That ain't 1 year. That's in 10 years.
Okay, so how is it cost zero then? The only way he can get it to the deficit to close to zero is by not having that child tax credit.
Well, the thing that I like, it advances environmental justice through a new clean energy and sustainability accelerator that will invest in projects around the country while delivering 40% of the benefits of investment to disadvantaged communities as part of President's Justice 40 initiative. It bolsters resilience and natural solutions to climate change through a historic investment in coastal restoration, forest management, and soil conservation for farmers and that. So there you go right there, too. We're not even bringing that into the equation. And that creates jobs, and it also reduces prescription drug costs, and that's a good one, too. It reduces.
Great, but the bill still costs money. You're still running a huge deficit. That means right back to what just said, okay, we're going even more broke because it's not paying for itself. They lie. I've read it. I've done the math. I've run the studies.
Well,
it doesn't work.
Every bill comes in, pays for itself. That's what the White House and the House, the U.S. House, they work on the budgets. And they decide if we can afford it or not. They're the ones that decide if we can afford it or not. It's all discretionary spending. And they work together. The House, the White House and the House, they do all our budgets. They're the ones responsible for our budgets.
They're a bunch of idiots. They're fucking idiots, Michael.
Oh, no,
I'm sorry to cuss.
You don't have to cuss now. We don't have to cuss.
I apologize.
All right.
I apologize.
Oh, shit, Michael.
I do apologize. But they're crazy, Michael. Those people are not the best at it in the world. In fact, the majority of the representatives and senators have never had a job in the financial industry. Not only that, the majority of the representatives on the financial committee, 80-90% of them have never worked in a financial job ever. AOC is on the committee.
I thought most of them were all Goldman Sachs alumni or fraternity. When I see them on C-SPAN and all that, they're all working for Goldman Sachs or they're former Goldman Sachs fraternity guys when I see them on C-SPAN and stuff when they introduce them. Are you Goldman Sachs? Are you part of Goldman Sachs or are you involved with them?
No, I have my own practice.
Okay. Well, I was just curious.
That's what Obama works for. What is that?
But AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who was a waitress, not even a bartender, she's a waitress, is on the finance committee.
We don't know. Maybe she took some night courses or night college. We don't know.
Michael, you know damn well that woman can't even fucking count hardly.
I'm not a fan of hers, okay, but we don't know. Maybe she took some courses. Maybe she's got a thing for math. We don't really know. Maybe she took night courses. She doesn't. You never know.
She doesn't because she wants to eliminate all student loan debt, which she doesn't even know how that is tied into it.
Well, I do too. And a lot of Republicans I've talked to, a lot of their children are on debt, and we're kind of aligned with the Republicans on that. Get rid of 70%. Biden only wants to get rid of 10%. And the Democrats and Republicans unanimously want to get rid of 70, and they're saying, Biden, what are you doing? Joe, you're only doing 10%, and I'm mad at him, too. I sent him letters saying, Joe, you got to do the 70, and he's not talking about it. And a lot of Republicans' kids are in debt just as much as Democratic kids, so let's get rid of the debt and give everybody a clean start. You said earlier, a few people on the show said there are no jobs. Just Fukin said if there are no jobs, eliminate the debt. Get rid of the school kids' debt. They don't have jobs to go to. Why should they be wallowing in depression and misery if they don't have no jobs to go to? Get rid of their damn debt. Give them a clean start. What the hell?
Biden just made 6.5 million jobs. There's plenty of jobs to go to.
Well, can they live on them? Is there a living wage? I mean, there's jobs. You could go shovel shit all day at the shit farm.
Why don't we ever blame the colleges?
You could be a ditch digger, too. Is that a living wage? I mean, you need a living wage.
But so you want to eliminate the debt just so they can go take out another debt? Because that's what they're going to. It's like, let's eliminate student loan debt so they can go buy a car. or go buy a house.
It's
and
so they can have decent housing or pay a medical bill, maybe eat, buy a dinner, or maybe feed themselves. Maybe they got a baby they got to buy formula for, diapers.
You know what the funny misconception about this is?
I live in the real world. Michael Key, I live in the real world.
Too. The only people it benefits are the people that are actually upper earning income earners with student loan debt, because they're the only ones making student loan payments, because people that don't make a lot of money don't make payments.
Well, they're the most of the kids that I know that are making it are trust fund babies.
Can't afford to make payments.
Are their families own the farms, or corporate farmers, and they sent their kids to college to run the farms, or they're big corporate business owners and they sent their kids. The poor kid that's trying to better himself gets out of school with all this debt, and he don't know somebody or something. It's who you know. It's not what you know. It's who you know. And if you're not in that upper echelon, you're going to have a hard time. And then that's why I'm here to create jobs for people and get money for people that got talent. People got gifts and talents, and we're going to get them some money to get some small businesses in North Dakota. That's what I'm all about, creating jobs. You got to have the will and the drive. And if you play fair and you play by the rules, I'll get you the money, and we're going to get you a small business in North Dakota. But if you screw up, we're going to take it away from you, and that's the way that's going to work.
But the people with student loans that are in the process, in the payment era, which means they've already graduated and got the degree, the people that are actually making payments, the ones that if you eliminated student loan debt, that it would benefit the most, are the ones that are actually making more money, because they're the ones that are actually paying the loans back. I have student loans myself. I'll be honest. I write most of my income off within the lines, and I don't hardly pay a lot because my income that I show, all right, allows me to pay very little. I'm going to pay the loans back, though. I'm not expecting anyone to pay them back for me. But here's the thing. The people that they're saying they're helping the most actually don't even make payments to the student loans. So they're not giving them any monthly benefit or payment at all. It's not making it one bit of difference in their lives. It's actually only benefiting the upper echelon. Okay, and then all you're doing is going to put the government in far more debt. The other thing is actually a lot of the student loan debt is tied to the Affordable Care Act. And the interest that is earned from the government on student loans helps pay for, I think, approximately $8 billion worth of the Affordable Care Act.
Well,
so
why is there such a big consensus to wipe away 70% of debt by both sides of the aisle, then, if what you're saying is true? Why is there such a huge consensus to get rid of it?
Because we have so many people that are so financially incompetent in our House of Representatives and our Senate. That's why. That is the exact reason. You know why AOC is on the Finance Committee? Because you get on these committees by going and dialing for dollars all day, and it's about how much money you raise. There's literally a direct correlation.
Well, I think the student loan department would know if people. I'm sure they report to the government and say, well, this person's out of work, that person's out of work, this person can't get hired. You know, there's people are overqualified when they go to college too, and they can't get hired. And then when they try to get an average job working, the employer said, no, you are overqualified. We're not going to hire you because you're taking away a job away from a guy that needs it for his family that's not as qualified as you are, and you're taking away from his pay grade. They'll do that.
What does that have to do with anything?
If you're overqualified for a job, you can't get hired in a certain kind of job. It's all based on labor laws, and that happens too.
You know why people don't get hired with a college degree, Michael? Because they went to college and they were dumbasses that paid $50,000 a year to go get a degree in underwater firefighting or some liberal studies.
I went to get a job. I went to get a job one time at a hotel as a night clerk.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. But I went to.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to tell you from experience. I went to get a job as a night clerk at a hotel while I was going to college. A lady looked at my references resume. Oh, you've been to college for 10 years now. I'm going to hire this girl that's 19 years old, has no experience, no college, nothing, right out of high school. I'm going to give her the job because you got plenty of college and plenty of experience, and I'm going to give her a chance because she has no college and no experience.
Sounds like you made a better decision.
Well, that's what they.
Sounds like you're the one that did that. You chose to go to college.
That's what they do in North Dakota. That's what they do. They want younger people with no experience, and then they can train them in their way, give them a lower wage, and exploit them. They can exploit them, give them a lower wage, and they want people that aren't as intelligent, and they want dummies in there that they can exploit.
Nobody's forced into those situations, though. You know what I mean? Nobody is forced into that.
Well, that's what's going on.
It's a personal choice.
That's what's going on. I'm not the only one.
What do you mean that's what's going on?
Emails I get from people. You know how many emails I get from people that are in the same situation that I was in? You know how many emails I get from people that were in the same situation that I was in? I'm not in that. I started my own freaking company 5 years ago. I said, to hell with this. I did something about it, okay? I got my own company.
I'm glad.
And everybody can do that. Everybody can do that,
That's why I'm going to help them. That's why I'm running for Senate, to help people to do this, what I do.
I hope you do.
Anyway,
somebody please tell me
I know what the facts are, so there.
Could somebody please tell me why we're not blaming the colleges for the exorbitant prices they're charging?
Right. There you go. God bless you. That's true, too. I've seen
And you know, it's funny. Hey, that's a good point. You know why that's a good point? Because, you know, the majority of the colleges are actually run by the government. So it's the government that's screwing everybody, and that goes against what you're saying about allowing more public interference. And I mean, I'm just stating the obvious here, right? But the school I went to is a state university. It's the government. So what are we saying here? What's the argument? Because the government seems to be the problem and charging. Here's the other thing.
The government,
you know why?
If the government's charging too much, and then the government says we're going to knock 70% off your debt, we screwed up. Amen, brother. Than that, then let the government eliminate our debt. Then, if they say we're charging you, well, wait a minute. You just said it's the government's fault. Now the government's rectifying the problem by saying, hey, we messed up. We're going to give you 70% off of what we overcharged you because we know the economy ain't as good as it should be, and there are no jobs. And there you go.
Michael.
Yes, sir.
I forget what I was going to say now. I'm old. No, who is the government? You're saying it's the government's fault. Who is the government? The government is the taxpayers of this country.
Right.
So you say the taxpayers have to pick up the bill of people who went and got an education, and they didn't have to go do that. They could have went to a trade school. They could have started a business on their own. And you want me as a taxpayer to pay for their shit when I sent my son to school and I paid for it, and he took out loans and he paid his loans back. What does he get?
Yep, exactly.
That's why I dropped out of school, because I wouldn't be able to pay for it. I'm already 50 years old. Why go to school?
Well, at that time there were probably jobs, and that's what I'm saying. If these jobs were sent overseas, well, I'm going to tell you, if these jobs were sent overseas and all this stuff, and everybody's saying, there was people on my show were getting people coming over here to America that are working for cheap labor in our hospitals, our tech department, all these jobs. We can hire these foreigners that'll come to America. They're taking our jobs, so we're cheaper than you Americans were. Americans ain't doing these jobs. We don't have the jobs for Americans no more. I don't care how educated you are. You're an American. You're right out of college. We can't hire you. We're going to hire this guy from another country that's going to come here and do your job. 1/5 of what we're paying you, we're going to give him. Well, where does that come into the equation? Everybody calls in my show saying that we're getting replaced as Americans right now. Our jobs are not only getting shipped overseas, we're getting replaced right in America before our very eyes by foreigners who are taking our jobs.
More white people now being homeless.
Well, no, you don't have to be a white person. You can be a brown person or a green person or a yellow person and be an American, and your job is going to be getting replaced by someone from another country. Americans this is a melting pot of diversity here, but there are Americans here that are all kinds of colors.
But, Michael, there are jobs. Unemployment's at the lowest it's ever been. The participation rate in the labor force is almost at the highest it's ever been.
That only reports job service and labor department only reports those that are actually filing. It's not even talking about the millions of people that aren't even looking for work or dropped out.
And they're fudging the statistics.
Yeah.
I had all new appliances delivered, and the guy, it took them 3 weeks to install it. And I'm like, what's the problem? What's going on? They're like, nobody wants to work anymore.
Exactly, but then that they don't count.
So that means unemployment. They're not relaying the truth.
I know that. And what I'm saying is that the government, we have the Biden administration right now that is putting on, it's the best economy ever. We're at 3.9, 3.8% unemployment. Well, here's the thing. If they're not looking for work, then they don't count because they don't want to work. Because apparently he's adding 6.5 million jobs that are new jobs, okay, that are available for people to go get. So either he has disincentivized people to go work, okay, or he's lying about the actual economic numbers. It's one or the other.
The guy said there are tech jobs from people coming from India, and they're coming in to work in our hospitals now because we're bringing in foreign doctors now into the hospitals. There's going to be a bunch of doctors now that are coming in from India that are going to be working for our pandemic. They're bringing them here to work in our American hospitals. So it's jobs we've created for people to come in that are foreigners to work here. So it's unemployment.
And so that'd be the Biden administration. That'd be the Democratic Party right now doing that. Right?
What are you going to do? What are you going to do when you got a pandemic? What do you do when you got a pandemic and you don't have people in there to save lives? What do we do? You need these doctors.
Oh, you mean the pandemic where if you get the virus? Oh, that's the other thing. So you mean the pandemic where the Biden administration has had a vaccine available the entire time he's been in office, and more people died and have gotten COVID than the year prior. This pandemic, so there's a lot of contradictions here. And I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions in here about COVID. I'm not even getting into that. I'm just looking at the numbers, and we're backing Biden into the corner because something's wrong. And you've even kind of admitted it too here, Michael. He's either lied about the jobs report, or he's lied about people. He's disincentivized people to want to work. He's lied about his progress in COVID. He's either lying about how successful the vaccine is. He's either lying about how bad the pandemic is, and that there's more unvaccinated people there's more vaccinated people that are getting sick then, and he's saying it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. There's a big lie going on here, and it's showing into the stuff that we're arguing. Because when I say, apparently unemployment's at 3.8%. Well, you're saying that's because we're bringing in people from outside. Why? Why are we bringing in doctors from outside? Why? Because we don't have enough because our hospitals are overrun? Oh, so that means that when 70 to 75% of the population is vaccinated, before Biden was in, maybe 10%, and he had the vaccine the whole entire time. That means he's actually failed. He's literally failed on his face and handling the pandemic. And so there's a lot of stuff here that is being told to us as the American people, and we are being completely lied to. And I only pick out the Democratic Party because they literally have control of the House and the Senate and the executive branch. And they are the ones getting up, and they're the ones telling us that everything is great, and everything is not great. We have 7% inflation, which is the highest inflation since the 1980s. Here's the other thing. The Federal Reserve is expected to hike rates about 7 times, between 1% and 2% within the next year. They have to go higher than that. I looked at a chart, presented this on my show the other day. All right. He's going to have to go, if it's at 7%, he's probably going to have rates raised to about 7%. I imagine it's going to go higher because inflation is still spiking. Just going back to what Just Fukin said, all right, with the economy crashing and stuff, if we keep going down the road that Biden wants to go down and trying to implement these policies that are extremely expensive, that don't give anyone tax credits, yeah, great. It's going to replace some pipes and some infrastructure. Well, it doesn't freaking matter if we're all broke and inflation is at 25%. It doesn't matter.
Well, the inflation is because of the trucking is at 50%, and our shipping right now is screwing everything up. We can't get goods. It's supply and demand, supply-side economics. We're not getting what we need, so it is supply and demand is causing the inflation.
Michael,
right now.
Inflation is because we printed 15% of all the money that's ever been printed in the history of the United States in 1 year. And most of that came from Biden's American Rescue Plan and the infrastructure deal. Then he wants to put in another bill that if he keeps the child tax credit expanded, it's going to be another $5 trillion.
That money
Michael.
doesn't get allocated for 10 years if you read the bill. These bills are 10-year
For 10 years,
programs.
$5 trillion. That is a lot of money.
Well, they're 10-year programs. You got to read the program's duration, or 10 years. This money gets allocated within 10 years. It doesn't get printed in like a month or a day or a year. These are 10-year programs.
That's $500 billion a year. Do you know what our deficit is every year? I think it's
we're 30 trillion. We got 30 trillion right now, but we give out 21 trillion to foreign aid.
That doesn't exist. Those are play numbers. Those are play numbers.
Well, we're giving 21 trillion in foreign aid right now every year. We could stop it.
I have no money.
And then we only owe 9
but what
trillion.
Is trillion, dude?
Well, we only owe.
Think about Michael. Think about what trillion actually is. It's not even. Like there's no. That's not even. That's like somebody walking in saying, "I'm going to give you $1 gazillion." Like it's fucking bullshit, man. It's not even a possible number.
Well, they got a congressional accountability office that's supposed to have real numbers and real data and all this crap, but they don't even know. They don't even know.
You can find this on the Federal Reserve website. They have real numbers. They
got the blue book, the beige book. We don't get the beige book. I think we can read the blue book or the red book I've read, but we can't see the beige book that tells the real numbers. One of them books we don't get. One of the books we don't get, only the government sees it.
I don't care.
You're right
the
there.
debt and the deficit are different. The deficit is how much the annual spending outdoes the annual revenue. The debt is a long-term debt, the money that we have to pay back. Most of the debt is owned by the United States. About 60 to 65, probably 70% is owned by the United States itself.
Right. We're a debtor nation. We're a debtor nation right now. Yeah.
Just listen. The deficit is how much more the government is spending compared to how much money it's bringing in. Right now, our deficit runs about $3 to $3.5 trillion, which means based off of the 10-year thing you're talking about, if a bill costs $5 trillion, what would that be? That would be $500 billion a year added to the $3 trillion deficit. That's what would that be? A 15% increase, roughly?
Well, you got to remember there's money coming in too. You're not talking. You're not. There's some money coming in too. Well, there's money coming in too, and there's wars and stuff. We stopped the war.
Yeah, like 0.087% of what we're spending, maybe.
Yeah. But we did stop the war in Afghanistan. There's 159 million a day that we're bringing into our country. You know.
That's already accounted for in the bill.
This is true. Amen to that.
Right.
It's already accounted for. All of that is already accounted for, Michael. It's already accounted for. And so you just spend on top of all the money we printed in COVID, on top of the infrastructure deal.
Well, it's fiat money based on
which leads to what?
It's all fiat money based on petrodollars. In God we trust.
And why would you do that though? Why would you do that?
Because we have a strong military.
Because
we have a strong military, and if you get in our way, we'll just bomb you.
Not with the guy we got now.
Oh yeah, he'll bomb you. Piss him off, he'll bomb
you.
Yeah,
we were doing that.
He'll bomb your ass. You piss Joe.
He'll bomb you with a fucking turd or something.
Biden's a hawk. Don't let him fool you.
I shit myself.
Biden's a hawk.
He's a hawk.
Biden right now is the reason why Russia's going to invade Ukraine. Think about this.
That's a false flag operation. I've been talking. It's all bullshit. I got people on the ground right now are laughing. I got a German ambassador that's a friend of mine. Her and her husband and kids are over there. They're laughing. They're cracking up. I've been talking to them for 2 years. This is all a big wag the dog. It's all bullshit. They've been laughing. It's all a false flag operation.
I don't understand how somebody who seems... Yeah, you seem like a very competent and smart person, Michael. You really do. Like I've been talking. I mean that wholeheartedly.
I broke this story.
The thing is, how can you?
I broke this story on KFGO radio last week, and everything I said's coming true now. That's a false flag. Yesterday on the news, they got it on national news. It's a false flag operation, and just like I said, it's all a false flag. It's all bullshit. And now they broke it. I broke it on KFGO radio last week. So you can check it out on regular radio here in Fargo. I broke the story, and it's through my friends that are over in Ukraine. I talk to them every night, and they're driving around like nothing. They're laughing. They don't think nothing. It's all bullshit. But that's what
I hope you're right.
Well, I hope she's right. Either this ambassador to Germany's lying to me, and she's crazy, and nothing's going to happen, and they're all safe, or shit's going to happen. And I told her, who do I believe?
I hope that's right.
And she told me, don't believe your news, believe me. So I'm trying to...
World War III would be a shit show. Like, that thing. I hope that's not what we're heading for, because That would not be fun at all for anybody. With the amount of weaponry that we have, it's
not for Russia or China.
Yeah, we don't want World War III, and we don't want a civil war here either in this country. We don't want neither.
Well, a civil war here would be chaos because it would be a territorial thing. It would be more ideals, not territorial, if we had a civil war here. And how do you know someone's on what side based on their ideals and their beliefs as far as how the country should be run? You wouldn't know. So it would be complete chaos, first of all.
And you would have
take over the world.
And you'd have Russia and China interference directly here in the United States while we're fighting it. They would literally be over here, and we would have foreign interference on splitting sides up and taking sides.
Well, look, there's no one who could take us down, an outside source that could take this country down. But can we take ourselves down? Sure. From the inside out, yes, we can.
But if we're fighting,
and if you read the Communist Manifesto of 1963, then it's a basic outline of the exact plan of the Soviets at the time. They laid out a plan. It was 50 points to focus on in order to take this country down from the inside out. And if you look at that list, literally, I would say probably a good 70% of them are the basic core values of the liberal left in this country.
Exactly.
Explain that to me.
Exactly. And that's the stuff I'm talking about. Because I'm providing you numbers. I've read the bills, Michael. And the thing is, I've gone on and I've literally read all of Biden's economic agendas by his supposedly Nobel Prize winner economist, which, by the way, Karl Marx won a Nobel Prize. So you could be a communist and win a Nobel Prize. That doesn't matter. All right? They don't take into consideration actual behavior on when you do raise taxes or when you do certain things. They just think, oh, you do this and it does that, and that's not true. It's not a one-to-one relationship. It's actually usually a 1-to-1 relationship. All right? Because trickle-down economics works when you are talking about passing all the negative stuff down. It runs like water. When you increase taxes on business, it goes right to the consumer, straight away, right to the consumer and the employer. All right? Yeah, maybe they are keeping the profits. I agree with you. Maybe they are corrupt. Great, they are. But when you do the negative things to the businesses, all right, the employers or the employees and the consumer eats it. They're the ones that have to do it.
Then you got to shut them down and give another small business a chance to become the big dogs. That's what they did in the past. Then you shut them down.
Do it too.
Then you give someone else a chance. Then you shut the big boys down and give someone else a chance to become the big dog.
It's not just the big boys. It's the little business.
Well, then you shut them down.
So, Michael, weren't you against private sector earlier? Weren't you arguing, like, you know what I mean? Like, you weren't. Was that what you said earlier about the private and public sector?
I'm against the government privatizing the government. And that's what the government's doing. They're privatizing the government. That's what I said. I don't like the government privatizing the fucking government. I don't like the government privatizing.
Yeah, I didn't think you said. I thought you said something a little bit more towards the idea that you weren't. You know, we were talking about public and private sector.
Yeah, and when the government privatizes itself, you got fascism. That's fascism when the government privatizes itself, and that's what the hell's going on since Reaganomics. That's fascism, and we don't need that in this country. That's why we went to war.
Reaganomics has nothing to do with privatizing anything. And the government privatizing itself.
Can we go to the replay, please?
Yeah, the government privatizing itself means that you're saying the government is the only corrupt thing in that whole equation.
No, you don't know what I'm saying. When the government hires private companies to do their work that they're no longer doing, and you got government in, and you got private companies doing the work the government used to do, that's privatization, and that's fascism. And that's what I don't like.
Like what?
Like everything, doing your taxes, doing this, doing that. Don't you know the government's been privatizing the work they used to do? North Dakota
okay,
North Dakota.
Taxes, so I'm not allowed.
Okay, North Dakota. Here, I'm going to give you an example. North Dakota DMV is not a government frickin' entity. It's not. They're not.
There's no way. There's no way.
It's not a state. It's a private company from Chicago that runs it. I asked the lady. She said, we're not a government entity, so you can't even report us to the government. And I said, oh, really? What are you then? She said, we're a private company from Chicago. We just got the title, North Dakota Department of Motor Vehicle. We're a Chicago company from Chicago. We're a privatized company. I go, oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know that. Okay, so I got to call your corporate office in Chicago. So that's what I'm talking about. When your government has these bureaus with their state names on them, and they're not even state owned entities. They got some company, or maybe the Fargo Bus Company is ran by an outfit out of Chicago, or the Fargo City Bus is actually a private Chicago bus company, and shit like that. That's where I'm saying fascism's coming in, because you could hire your buddy that owns Billy Boy Johnson, that owns the frickin' bus company, or owns some company to run it, and you're a government official. You say, hey, well, you know, the school photographs, for example, in Fargo. Here's another thing. You could hire whoever you want to take the school photos. You hire, you're the superintendent of schools. I like, my friend Bill Jones owns, Johnson's photo company. And I think I'm going to hire him because he's going to give me $1,000 a year just to hire his company. Well, there you go.
I want to say you have the definition of fascism all wrong. You know what fascism is?
Fascism is when big government and companies are unified, working together. Then you got fascism, and that's what
it means that you have more control of the government has more control over those companies.
Nope. No, you got it wrong. It's when corporations own the government, and that's what's going on. Corporations are owning the government now through privatization, and it gets so big, the government outsources everything. Pretty soon, the corporations wind up telling the government what to do, just like you have your lobbyists right now telling your legislatures what to do, because your lobbyists are writing the legislation for the legislatures. Lobbyists are writing the frickin' legislation for your senators, your congressmen, and that's something I'm not going to do when I'm a senator. I'm going to have my staff write our own legislation, and we're going to have our own lawyers look it over. I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, thank you, Mr. Key, for the $100,000 check. I'll make sure I pass your bill that you just wrote with your lawyers, and I'll put my name on it because I'm just a congressman or a senator with a figurehead taking your money to put in my pocket. I'm not going to do that. I'm not up for sale. And that's fascism. That's what we have, brother. That's what I want to get rid of. That's why I'm for Main Street and not Wall Street. And that's what's happening, and do your research on that.
That's not fascism. Fascism is when you have it. Literally, I had the definition right here. Okay, it's a centralized autocratic government. All right, that has a dictator, or is run by a dictator. All right, it's more government control. It's more control over the people. All right, like it has nothing to do with what you're saying with the corporations. In fact, if you're saying that the government should actually have more control over the corporations, that's going more towards communism as well, and that's not how it should be.
Well, here I'm going to read. You read your definition. Okay, fascism is a form of far-right authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, forcibly suppression or opposition, and strong regimentation of society, the government and economy that rose to prominence in the early 20th century Europe. Fascists believe that liberal democracy no longer works and is obsolete.
Great, you just confirmed what I just said.
No,
you just said nationalism. Nationalism means the government.
That's
the
you.
As a whole.
That's you. You're. That's what you are. That's your Trump rallies. That's your far right Trump rallies. Your flags hiding behind the Bible and the flag. That's you guys. Your forcible suppression of opposition. Voter suppression. That's you guys. That's you guys.
It's so wrong.
That's you. You're wrong. That's you guys. You're fascists. You know, you want to control everything.
Michael.
You want to control the businesses. You want to control good government. You want to control technology. You want to control the state, society.
I want liberal private individuals to control their business. I want Democrats to be able to run their business. I don't want the government to run their business. This is why communists think communism works, because they think, the means of production is given to the people. But guess who represents and controls the asset for the people? The government. Because the people are the government, all right? So when you have a fascist society...
Guess who the government is? All the business owners, Nancy Pelosi, you said it yourself. All the business owners are the richest people in the world, the senators, the congressmen. They all own businesses. They all own stock. Look at their stocks. They are the business owners. All the people running the country. All the people running the country. All the people that are running the country. It's all the people that are running the country right now own businesses. They all own corporations. They all do insider trading. They all own a part of the government. Okay.
Great. They're 1% of the population. So does the other 99%.
That's fascism, buddy.
It's not, Michael. The government as an entity is different than the people that make up the government.
We don't need it.
It's not the same. You're looking at it like you need to separate the two. You have me, right? Michael Key. I'm a private individual. If I own my business, it's a private business. The government does not own it. Even if I work for the government and I own a business outside.
Do you pay taxes to the government? Does your company?
Yes, but it's not the same thing.
Do you have to report to the government?
It's not even close to the same.
Do you have to report? Do you have to pay taxes? Then they own you.
Michael,
you got to report. Do you have a 10 number TIN? Do you have to report? Do you have to pay taxes? Then they own you.
Yes, but that has nothing to do with the means of production and ownership and public and private ownership.
Oh, so you're making that argument. Do you want to get rid of taxes altogether? Like, you know what I mean? You're just to make that argument.
I think taxes are good.
I'm fine with it.
I think taxes are good.
Exactly. So how can you make that statement that you just made and then say that right after, Michael?
Well, I'm just telling him that he thinks that government isn't privatization isn't fascism. That's all. I'm trying to compare.
It's not. It's literally
I think
not.
it is. I think it is. Fascism is conservatism. It's exactly what it is. It's conservatism.
No, it's not.
Conservatives are fascists.
Fascism is not.
Because that's what it is.
Do you know who the far right were in Germany? It was the Nazis, right? The National Socialist Party.
Right.
They were socialists and communists.
Right.
Right? Their values actually support more of the left. Far more to the left, their values and everything that they did and implemented and control and all that stuff is actually, and economically too. Go read about it. Supports more of the left's values today.
They had a corporatist economic system.
Their rights. Not even close. Okay, so you're making a comparison saying just because I'm right wing. Actually, did you know that most countries, liberals, all right, are the left say, or it'd be liberal.
Here, let me speak a minute. The fascist regime in Germany created a corporatalist system in 1925, a creation of the Palazzo Vadoni Pact, in which the Italian Employers Association and the fascist trade unions agreed to recognize each other as the sole representatives in Italy. And the Nazis followed this, including non-fascist trade unions. The fascist regime first created the Ministry of Corporations that organized the Italian economy into 22 sectorial corporations, banned workers' rights, strikes, and lockouts. In 1927, created the Charter of Labor, which established workers' rights and duties, created labor tribunals to arbitrate employee disputes. In practice, the sectorial corporations exercised little independence and were largely controlled by the regime, and the employee organization were rarely led by employees themselves, but instead by appointed fascist party members. Well, that's kind of what we got going on right now in the Republican Party, I believe, exactly what Italy did. And then Nazi Germany covered it, and that's your corporate model under the Trump and the Republican Party since Reagan. They were doing the same frickin' thing, and that's what happened.
Not even close.
And they for corporate power. I'm for individual small business. I'm for the smaller businesses. You guys are for this fascist corporate structure.
Businesses or corporations? Do you know how many small businesses or corporations, Michael? Do you know what defines an S corp and a C corp?
Yeah,
usually
that's 101 business law. Yeah, I'm a little more advanced than that.
So you don't want corporate power, you just want small businesses, but a lot of the small bubusinesses are corporations. So you're contradicting yourself.
They're small corporations. They're not these multi-billion-dollar corporate welfare conglomerates that are getting all these subsidies. When people go get these PPP loans, these big corporations suck it up, and the little companies like you're talking about get nothing because the big dogs sucked it up. You know, like your Delta got that $18 billion and wind up giving it to the shareholders as a bonus. Now they're all under indictment by the Democrats who are going after them because they said you just stole $18 billion because you were supposed to build new planes. You were supposed to hire more people, more retention there, you were supposed to fix our planes. You were supposed to hire people. What the hell? And you stole the money and you stole it and gave it to your freaking shareholders. Now that's fascism. That's what I don't like.
Great.
That's what I'm fighting against, stuff like that. And you know, these Bernie Madoff guys, you know, okay, that's who we're fighting against, those kind of guys. And that's what we got to stop, corruption like that.
Great, but who allowed that to happen was the PVP stuff was handed out by the government, which means, and Pook and I talked about this like last night, and we actually agreed on this. Like, it was wrong, but at the same time, the government, okay, the way they went about that is what allowed that to occur. And I'm not saying it's right, and I don't care. Like I said, if it's a Republican or Democrat that did it, they all need to be held accountable if it was wrong. See, the difference between you and I, it seems like, is that I know the actual fundamental difference between the private ownership and public ownership, okay, and what fascism actually means, okay? No, you're wrong about what fascism is.
I'm going to read you something. Let me read you something. I'm going to read you something here, a little psychiatry here, okay? Susan Sontag, okay. Okay, well, you can mau. I got to hurry up here. We're running out of time. According to cultural critic Susan Sontag, a preoccupation with situations of control, submissive behavior, extravagant effort, and the endurance of pain, they endorse two seemingly opposite states, egomania and servitude. The relations of domination and enslavement take the form of characteristic pageantry, the massing of groups of people, the turning of people into things, the multiplication or replication of things, and the grouping of people, things around an all-powerful hypnotic leader figure or force. The fascist dogmatary centers on the originist transactions between mighty forces and their puppets uniformly garbed and shown in ever-swelling numbers. Its choreography alternates between ceaseless motion and congealed static viral posing. Fascists are glorious surrender. It exalts mindlessness. It glamorizes death. Sontag also enumerates some commonalities between fascist art and the official art of communist countries, such as obeisance of the masses to the hero, and a preference for the monumental and the grandiose and rigid choreography of mass bodies. But whereas official communist art aims to expound and reinforce a utopian morality, the art of fascist country, such as Nazi Germany, displays a utopian aesthetic, that of physical perfection in a way that is both prurient and idealizing. According to Sontag, fascist aesthetics is based on the containment of vital forces. Movements are confined, held tight, held in. It appeals is not necessarily limited to those who share the fascist political ideology, because fascism stands for an ideal, or rather ideals that are persistently today under the other banners, the ideal of life as art, the cult of beauty, the dissolution of alienation of ecstatic feelings of community, the repudiation of the intellect, the family man under the parenthood of leaders. Fascism has been widely criticized and condemned in modern times since the defeat of the Axis powers in World War II. So that's kind of a different look at the psychology about fascism, and it also has there's different
fascism has changed since the definitions that are given for fascism predate World War II.
Right.
So I mean, fascism has definitely changed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's changed a lot. It's changed a lot, and I can see it coming. And I've had many professors I've talked to, political science people, and I said, could we ever have another Holocaust? And they said, absolutely. And I said, when? And they said, now. We're prime pickings for right now, even under Bush, when Bush was here. Then they said it under Trump. They're saying it now, too. It's like, what the hell? So, I mean, fascism is here, people, and we gotta monitor it and stop it. It's still here.
Fascism is here because we have a administration right now that is wanting to actually push us towards that. You even said it when you were reading that there are commonalities between fascism and communism. That's literally what they're going down. It has nothing to do with it.
I think we're here now. We're almost full-blown communism.
Yes, and Michael, every time you read something about fascism or state something about the government, you literally are supporting my argument of how bad and how much the current Biden administration is pushing us towards what you're saying you're opposing.
Well, it started under Reagan. It went down big under both Bushes. And Trump really did it. Trump really pushed the envelope. You know?
How? Tell me how he did not.
Privatization.
It's not fascism.
George Washington warned it when the power
George
of
Washington
the money
wanted
becomes
privatization.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He wanted private ownership from the masses of the people, but he said when it goes in the hands of the few, then we're in trouble. Then we're no longer America. And I can find that
80% of the businesses are owned by small businesses.
I'm going to read his quote, George Washington, about the government, what he said. I'll find the quote here. I'm going to find it. I read it all the time here. Let me get this quote for you. And I better hurry up here. I'm running out of time. Let me find I got a note here. I always keep this one. I'll read the whole thing he said. And it warns us about what's going on right now. And I always go back to George Washington's quotes. And nobody, evidently, the nights I do quotes, nobody's listening on the show. They'd rather come on and have a discussion. But let me find this quote real quick. I wrote it down here in my notes. Let's see here. See where it's at here. I hope I can find it here. It should be right in the front here. Okay. Minority. Okay, here's something. This ain't it. But if the laws are to be so trampled upon with impunity, and the minority is to dictate to the majority, there is an end put at one stroke to a Republican government. Nothing but anarchy and confusion is to be expected thereafter. That's not it. Let me see.
Wait, what did you just say? Read that again. Read that again.
Oh, this is a good one. But if the laws are to be so
No, go back and read that. Did you just say if they stroke a pen and get rid of a Republican government or a republic government, that nothing but what do you say, chaos or whatever?
Anarchy and confusion is to be expected thereafter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So if we eliminated our republic and went to a democracy and got rid of the electoral college, you mean just anarchy and confusion would persist? The great George Washington even said that?
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's what he said in the founding of the country here. But I want to find out.
So you don't trust him on that, but you will trust him on what he said about the businesses.
Well, I'm going to show you what he said about what's going on right now in our country, that he was way ahead of his time, 200 and something years. And I got to find this damn quote real quick like here. But I got a lot of quotes I'm going through that I've said on this show. And let me see here. You guys can talk amongst yourselves for a while if you want, and I'll just come back. I'll come back on when I find it here.
Okay. I'm going back. My freaking typing for the chats, I can't type, and I'm trying to respond to some of these comments. I just got one, but it's stuck on the emojis. Pook, what do you mean cheap shot?
Oh, sorry about my comment on the Delaware. I just
thought
thought
the airplane before the airplane flew over. That was perfect. That was funny as hell.
I was watching that and I said, "What did he just say?" You're kidding me, right?
Yeah. Before the airplanes flew over him on the Delaware. Before he was facing the German machine guns when he landed on the beaches of the Potomac.
Right.
In the name of capitalism.
And they all have those moments, so it's it's just funny.
Yeah, that's funny. Hot the smiley faces. I'm Porky the guinea pig. Eric that's a duck season, rabbit season. That is kind of what this is, Eric.
Does anybody know what Woolworths was?
No. Oh, Woolworths?
Yeah. It was
Oh, yeah,
called Woolworths.
5 and dime.
It was like a 5 and dime.
Yeah, they still have it in Australia.
Yeah, there's a few of them still here in the States, too.
They had soda jerks. You could get
My
malts.
great-grandmother was actually a waitress at one in Norfolk, Virginia, and was fired for feeding a black guy at the food bar where you sit down to eat in 1933. They took her out of there kicking and screaming because she knew she did the right thing.
Hold on.
She was Billy Badass anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's a great show.
Yeah, we're having a good time here.
What happened?
He's looking for something. I will say
was
this,
looking for
Michael, and I
something
said,
here that was interesting that quote George Washington said. It's basically just saying when the power of the hands of the few business owners and banks, like the 1% running our country now, we're no longer a republic. We're done. That's what he said. You know, when you have this 1%, basically he was warning us 200 something years ago that, and it's just basically stating that when we have this 1%, right now we're screwed. We're over. We're not a republic anymore. And that's what he actually was saying. But I wanted to read his exact quote, which I've read many times on this show, and I can't find it right now. And it's usually right there. And I can't.
you know, there was a 1%
I don't
when they wrote
believe
the Declaration of Independence, right? There was a 1%.
Yeah, they did.
There's always a 1%.
But they didn't control. They might have controlled 80% of the wealth. Sure, yeah, you're probably right
I
about
don't believe
that.
we should. I don't believe we should tax those those percentages higher.
I don't
think
either.
Everybody needs to pay a flat tax.
Yep, about 13%, I would say. I know you said 16% earlier.
Yeah, I think 16.5 was the magic number that we looked at, 6-7 years ago.
I say 13
16.5.
because the average income tax rate, the average effective income tax rate, I think is at 13%.
Yeah, but the offset would be a 2.4% lift in sales tax across the board in the states. So that's where the balance would come in.
Gotcha. So yeah, and I'm 100% with that. Like that's actually, you can ask anyone, that's actually what I talk about is a flat tax rate, broad-based tax rate that's simplified and easy.
See, my problem is everybody wants a smaller government. You guys got to remember, when you have smaller anything, they don't represent the rights of everybody and the thoughts of everybody. That's why I don't like the Supreme Court interfering on the rights of 320 million people. 9 people don't represent all of our interests. You know, and that's what I'm saying. A smaller government is not a direct democracy. In a direct democracy, 90% of us will be involved and our voices will be heard and we'll have a vested
Actually,
interest.
no, that's not true. Only 51% of us will be involved.
Well, in your math. What, Pook?
I believe at a flat tax rate, the government would be sustainable.
I hear that from a lot of people. I hear that from a lot of people. Yeah.
Create those educational programs and everything else where moving forward, we're educating our youth and moving on. And that tax rate could be spread across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people.
You know, Michael Key, I'm going to call you out on this. You made the comment that you're trying not to pay any tax at all, but you would still be a victim of that 16.5%.
Yeah. No, I don't want to not have a tax. I understand we need a tax. When I said that, I was kind of upset.
The show's going to go in about 30 seconds, guys. 20 seconds. So thank you for tuning in. It's been a great show. Come back tomorrow night, guys. Thanks a lot. I'm glad I got to hear from all of you. Awesome show.
Good night.
We'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks for staying up late, you guys. God bless America, and get out and vote. And thanks for letting your voices be heard on the Michael J. Steele for Senate show. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.